I'm so
We're
tempted
good.
to leave. Okay, so this is Bill Soms. I'm calling this regular meeting of the Town Council Finance Committee to order. It's 5 p.m. Present are myself, Councilor Ingalls, Councilor Ryan, as well as Councilor McGrattan, Finance Director Marcia Hancock, and Assistant Finance Director and Treasurer Ian Stammel, and Director of Emergency Services Steve Holyfield, and our Administrative Assistant Roxanne Marr. That said, Roxanne, can I handle Ian's item right at the start, even before information and citizens comment? I can do that?
Yes, yep,
Right.
you can do that.
So Ian is here. He has a meeting at 5:30, so he's asked, or Marcia has asked if we can handle his item first, which is under new business. And it is about Webster Bank. I've got to find it.
Item 5.
Thank you.
4.
No, it's not
Oh,
showing.
sorry, 4. 4.
No, yeah, 4. So at this time, I would accept a motion on item number 4 under new business. Andrea or Tim? Oh, I don't see it. Okay, I'll go ahead and make it.
Sorry, I was on mute. Again, so moved.
So this is a motion to authorize the treasurer to terminate bank services with Webster Bank and to transfer the town accounts to Dime Bank. As I recall, we went with Webster Bank for their pickup and delivery services with an armored car. At any rate, if you've read through the email and the attachments, Webster Bank is not providing good customer service. They've missed several appointments, and we've got very good service and are very pleased with Dime Bank with our other accounts, which is right across the street. I'll ask for a second, which I forgot to do. Is there a second? I'll second it. And also let the record show that Wayne Donaldson from Board of Ed has joined the meeting. So Ian, did you want to say anything in addition on this motion?
I mean, if anybody had any questions, but I'll just kind of give some more detail. During the pandemic, obviously, there's a lot of people working from home, and Kathy and I were having a lot of issues throughout the past year with our direct contact who's supposed to provide us the customer service. And I had better luck calling the 1-800 number and getting a stranger with who the person is supposed to be our direct contact. And one of the things that we have to contact them about over the phone is if we get locked out by typing in the wrong password, or if we forget our password, we can't just reset our password through their login system, which is unusual and can be annoying if you're in the middle of something that you need to get done right away. Also, the Brinks pickup, they do no call, no shows. I'd probably say they're supposed to come every Wednesday in the morning. And I'd probably say I've got a no call, no show at least once a month for the past year, where I don't even get notified, and I'm supposed to be notified. And Kathy had a lot of customer service issues when she was trying to set up the lockbox services with the tax bills that were going out. There's a lot of detail that goes into creating the bill so it scans in properly with the lockbox service. And the customer service from Webster Bank was not timely, and we can't contact Lockbox Company. We have to contact Webster Bank, and Webster Bank contacts the Lockbox Company. It's a third party. So it got quite to the deadline with Kathy on that, and she was very frustrated and came to me and expressed her frustrations. And that's when Bill reached out to you and said, I think Kathy and I are on the same page here, just to drop Webster altogether. There is one concern I have, that we still collect electronic payments with LVs, believe it or not. I believe it's people that are paying off large medical debts, and they're doing it like $25 a paycheck. We've got a couple of those that stream in every month. So I'm gonna have to contact the billing company to see what we can do about getting those electronic payments switched over to Dime Bank. But
yeah, that'll be a tank.
Yeah, But yeah, those are basically the concerns, and Dime Bank's been absolutely wonderful with us. I believe the additional reason for the Webster Bank was Dime Bank did not have a lockbox service. And so Dime Bank was not an option for that, but now they do. And I did contact them, and Sherry sounded very excited to get us, you know, started with their lockbox service opposed to Webster Bank.
So I think part of the discussion, I could be totally wrong, but I thought there was also a discussion about brakes. We wanted to have armored car service, and I think in the past we did not. Am I right, Marcia?
Yes, we part of the appeal of going with Webster Bank was that they would use Brinks to go back and forth. They still, I think at that time, they still had a location in Groton, and now they don't.
The nearest location is Old Lyme.
But it's not a problem going across the street to Dime. That was an issue with the previous tax collector, but it's not really a concern with the current tax collector.
Well, I want to make sure that employees are safe, and, you know, ne'er-do-wells pay attention to habits, so.
Right.
I think
We can always request, we can look again at requesting the police to accompany the tax, well, does the tax collector take her own over?
Yes, but and it's not regular, it's sporadic. So it's not like, you know, you could catch somebody on a Tuesday at 5 o'clock doing it.
Okay, Andra's back. Andra, Tim, I don't know how much you missed, Andra. This is in summary to move from Webster Bank, which is providing terrible service, and move that account over to Dime Bank, which provides excellent service.
Apologies, everyone.
Sounds like she has connection problems.
You're cutting in and out, Andra.
I don't know.
On again.
So Bill, if I could, just a quick overview. It sounds like it's a net benefit to move to Dime from Webster. The detriment I heard, the only detriment so far that I've heard, is about electronic payments, and I'll admit that I did not understand that completely. So I was wondering if perhaps we could go over that once more, just so I understand that, and also if there's any other issues that we have in moving from one bank to another, closing out the accounts, any fees associated with that, et cetera. I'm assuming not, but I figured I'd ask the question. So the two-parter, just going over the issue with electronic payments again, and then is there anything else that we should be aware of?
So LVs is the former Ledyard Volunteer Emergency Services, which provided ambulance services until we went with American. And as Ian mentioned, there are some people still making payments to LVs, probably as a result of a payment plan. So I think he's said he's going to have to sort that out with the billers who are sending those payments to us.
Yes, and I do have a contact with our former billing company, and I'm sure I can reach out to her and figure it out pretty simply.
Okay.
She can manage that for us.
Ian, I have,
all right.
I have contacts for you too if you need them, because I deal with them with getting the invoices for their portion of it too.
Great, awesome, thanks, Steve.
And there's only, I think, under $500 left to collect, so it'll be a very temporary, like, shouldn't go on past fiscal year 22.
Awesome. As far as fees or anything like that, I agree there's probably not, but I've never asked, I haven't asked. So, I mean, I can confirm that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not sure what the circumstances are with the municipal account, but you know, obviously with a personal account, it's a lot different. But yeah, I just didn't know.
Typically with the banks, we have no fees because they, I mean, obviously we're leaving the bank, but you know, they've been holding a lot of our money and, you know, so we typically don't have any fees and we get, that's part of the benefit of, you know, that's how they get us in. They want to take and hold our money. So I highly doubt there will be any fees. Probably
Yeah, I mean, if we could, yeah, before.
people.
All right. Yeah, I mean, if we could just find that out just as a point of interest, you know, that would appreciate it. I'm just curious.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So yeah, Tim, did you want an answer on that before we vote on this?
No, I'm satisfied. So.
What we normally do in a situation like this is we vote on it and hope for an answer when we present this to the council. So that we've got.
Well, that's kind of where I was going with this, is that when it comes before the full council, if we could have an answer, you know, at least just, it's really not even an answer. It's just being able to say that there are no other issues we have to worry about in this transfer, then that's fine. I don't need it for tonight.
Okay, and just to be specific, there are 4 accounts that we have with Webster that my plan is to get rid of and move them over into Dime Bank accounts.
Okay, Andrea, I don't know how much of that you caught. Do you want to just a refresh, or do you have questions?
You know what, gentlemen, I will defer to you. I don't know what's going on my end, but I heard just about nothing. And rather than have you repeat it, I will defer to your good judgment, which I trust.
We can hear you fine right now. So, okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Or raise your hand.
Andrea?
I'm gonna, I think I should just refrain.
Sure, okay. And Councillor Solms votes aye, so the motion passes with 1 abstaining. Okay, Ian, thank you, and we'll look forward to hearing from you more next week.
Awesome, thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
I'll reach out to Webster, try and get an answer for you.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Okay, that said, I don't think we have any citizens' comments. I don't see or hear anyone. I have no informational items, although I have a few things to present during the motions. I would accept a motion on the review and approval of the prior meeting minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments, questions, corrections? I read them. They were very good. Thank you, Roxanne. All in favor, ready to vote? Please say aye.
Aye.
Councilor Ingalls votes aye.
Councillor Solomon votes aye. The motion passes. Okay. So under old business, our first discussion item is the Fire Apparatus Replacement Plan. Steve is on vacation and joining us from the woods. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Conversation this week, I asked that we make an effort to think through this plan. There's no urgency to approve this plan tonight or next week. We don't really have to do anything until either something breaks or until we approach the capital plan. So I'd really like to put some thought into the apparatus plan while we have the opportunity. The question I asked Steve, or the request I made of Steve, is that we have a conversation with the chiefs. They don't have to come, but I wanted to make sure, and I think the way Steve works, he's done that, but I want to make sure that we have a conversation about poking holes in the plan to say what could go wrong. So I'll give you an example. At the time, moving to the CAF system seemed like a good idea. A lot of fire departments were going there. It seemed like a great way to handle a fire with minimal amounts of water. But then we discovered that there are training issues and other things that make it not quite as good a plan as we had hoped. So I want to try and look into the future, and we're not going to close this out tonight. I just want to have a short conversation with Steve about what are the things that could go wrong with the present recommendations, and what would we do if things did go wrong. Secondly, I want to think about what other things could we do, and I'll give an example. I know we talked about it, so it's not a good one, but what if we were to replace the rusting frame rails on the existing truck rather than replace it and try and make it last? That worked out, we think, with the Cummins engine. I don't have the vehicles in front of me, but anyway, it worked out with the waiting out and then replacing with the Cummins engine. So what other things could we do with the existing equipment? What things could we plan? And I'll stop there.
I think it's premature to say that's worked out because we don't have that rig back yet.
I know.
They're having some programming issues, and they've been on the phone with Germany trying to get this squared away because they haven't gotten the best info from Fire down in Louisiana. But there was some life to that motor, and we're moving forward on that. So unfortunately, patience is the virtue right now, which admittedly, when we've got $126,000 tied up on a $400,000 fire truck, I know none of us are very patient with that. We want to get it back. I think that your question is a good one, Bill, but I think it's a very broad question. And my initial response to it is that's a real hard one to predict.
No.
We didn't know that the frame rails were going to rust out in R13. And admittedly, it should have been caught when the vehicle was serviced a couple of years ago. And I don't want to call it refurbished, but there was a significant amount of work done to it, and the vendor didn't catch a couple things. So kind of my reply to you is there's a few things that need to happen in order for this plan to be successful in the long term. I think part of it is stability in the leadership of the fire department. So, you know, Chief Saccone and Chief Mann have been very open to conversations. That could change with any election cycle, and that's the nature of the beast that we have when we have the two volunteer chiefs in town. It's certainly potentially a weakness, but it's also a strength, and it just depends on personnel changes and who's in there and how often they change. It's no secret that we've had some pretty significant turnover in Ledyard over the years, and that's actually resulted in a couple of the issues that we have with different philosophies ebbing and flowing in and out of leadership positions. And you know, for those that have been around for a little while, I don't need to name names on any of that, nor will I, but for the folks that are newer to the council and newer to the discussion, we've had some issues, and we're thankful that John Mann's been, you know, chief for a few years now and has his sea legs beneath him as we speak, and is functioning in stride and having good conversations with us. Mm-hmm. You know, even my position, we had Russ in there for 10 years. Russ and I had very different philosophies. I'm building on a lot of what he did, and some of it, we've had some just blunt conversations on what does and doesn't work, because there may have been some steering that could have been adjusted a few degrees here and there and had a completely different course. So, you know, for the nautical folks, you'll appreciate that term. There's a lot of things that have come up that we're dealing with now that just weren't able to be foreseen, such as the motor that we're replacing, the Cummins motor that we're installing. That was the Navistar that we got rid of. It turned into a lemon. We didn't know it was going to be a lemon until 5 or 6 years after we purchased the apparatus. And it's unfortunate when we spend $200, $300, $400, $500. Even the ladder truck was almost $800,000 to wind up having to dump another $100,000 into it. It's very frustrating at that point, which you guys, I know, echo that same sentiment. So my hope is moving forward that we will have consistent leadership, both in my position and in the fire chief position, and similar philosophies, and the ability to have open dialogue with both me as the, I guess you'd call it, department head, and the mayor and the council, and to be able to appreciate each other's differences and viewpoints, and to ask those hard questions as we move forward on it. But that's a really tough one for me to come up with on analyzing everything that could go wrong, because there's so much. You know, I don't ever want to have an apparatus accident in town, especially a major one, but that would be something that certainly would change the course of how we do things if we get to that point where we had a rig that was perhaps totaled. You know, that's just one example that I can think of off the top of my head, that we would have to really have a major adjustment to the plan and go from there. You know, who knows what development's going to yield in the next few years. We're talking a 20, 25-year plan, and you know, maybe at some point we add more hydrant coverage, and then the pressure on our ability to have the tankers becomes less. And maybe, you know, at that 20-year mark, 25-year mark, when we're talking about replacing a tanker, then maybe we go back to one in town or none in town, depending on what the makeup is developmentally of the town. So I view it as there's a lot of facets. There's a lot of things going on. And I actually spoke with the chiefs and the mayor that we need to have an annual review of this plan. And that annual review could be, yep, we're good, we'll talk to you next year. Or it could be, well, you know, we're starting to see some stuff and we need to get out in front of it and anticipate these changes as we move forward. But I think that communication, that discussion, that open dialogue is very, very key to this.
I think that's a good suggestion, Steve. This all comes up for vote when we look at the budget, and I think it's good to have consensus and knowledge on what the plan is, both short and long term, so that we don't arbitrarily or mistakenly cut something out of the capital plan that is part of a long-term plan.
And I can even go back to, I think it was last year, there had been some initial discussion about maybe financing vehicles, or I think the mayor maybe proposed not putting the full amount in. And I know you guys had some discussion on that. It's worth having those discussions. I know there's vendors that'll do 10-year financing on things. So if you're buying a $1 million fire truck and you finance it for 10 years, usually it's 0%, and maybe it's a fixed cost of $100,000 a year paid into that lease. Those are certainly options. There's agencies out there like Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Last time I was down there, they have 7 new fire engines that they buy every 7 years, and so the whole fleet is consistent. It makes it much easier for the employees to get qualified. That's certainly an issue for our volunteers, is trying to get everyone qualified. There's a certain process that they go through. I can't speak for Ledyard's, but in Gales Ferry, you start with the brush truck, you go to the rescue, you get qualified on the engine, then the tanker, and then ladder, because they're increasingly difficult levels of responsibility. The tanker weighs a lot. It's got 3,000 gallons on a high center of gravity, so we don't want a newer apparatus driver driving that. Same deal with the ladder truck. But I think Myrtle Beach has a really cool way that they handled it, and that they do their financing, they buy the rigs, they have very limited fleet repair costs, which has been another issue of ours. And in 7 years, the apparatus is gone. They turn it back in and they get a whole new fleet. Not suggesting we go that way, but there's other things to do out there that are beneficial that other agencies have done. And if we can kind of analyze those and find what works for us, and like I said, have those good conversations, that's a great thing. You know as well as I do, we consistently overspend and ask for more money on the vehicle repair budget. We added, I think it was $4,000 per fire company this year to try to absorb some of that. We've had a couple special expenditures to deal with other things, such as that motor replacement. But a lot of these are unforeseen. We don't know that our 21's generator is going to die, and that was something we had to fix this year, and I think it was $12,000 or $13,000. So I'm not sure what the solution is. I don't know if you come up with a value of everything that could possibly break and try to bolster the account, which I have mixed feelings on, or
I wouldn't want to go that far. I was thinking more on a strategic level, tactical. What do we think might not work out in terms of the vehicle itself and its configuration? I wouldn't want to try and ask you.
We've had some difficult conversations, and admittedly, the pulse on the floor at Gales Ferry, there was some pushback initially when Chief Saccone mentioned, hey, maybe we could get rid of the rescue and combine it. But I think it's less wheels on the ground to maintain. It's less drivetrains to maintain. It's designing an engine and maybe spending a little bit more money to make it accommodate the 2 apparatus concept in one, like a Swiss Army knife, is not a bad thing for us. But it has to be well done. And that's something that I discussed with John Mann and his officers at one point, that our rig design is really bare bones needs. And I wouldn't sign off on something that was a whole bunch of wants and lavish, because I can't justify that to you guys. When I'm sitting here and you say, well, why do you need this, $3,000 doohickey on the rig? I better have a good answer on why it's functional for the town, and not just it's pretty and looks cool in parades. So that's the kind of hard conversations that we tend to have behind closed doors amongst ourselves. And you get a bunch of firemen together, they're certainly going to call each other out on things that they disagree on, and have those tough conversations before we even get to the council level, thankfully, because we don't want to look like we're not on the same page coming to you guys, and we also don't want to be at odds out in the public forum either. So we try to have those conversations in the comfort of our own firehouses, and then come up with something that works for everyone using input.
We appreciate the time that you guys put into that. I was really impressed with the research that went into the ladder truck. The guys really put a lot of time into that.
Yeah, and so Tim, you're newer to this, so you weren't here when we did the ladder truck. Just to give a little backstory, we'd initially started working with the vendor that was Bulldog Fire Apparatus, and at the time they were selling KME, which is part of Kovach, and that's a major company out there. And we worked 6 or 8 settings where we met with the factory rep, and we designed an apparatus on what we needed, and they were all good conversations about that. We had initially had a telesquirt, which had a real small footprint when you put the jacks out. We could put that in driveways and stuff. And when we realized that we were going to have to go with the larger footprint on the apparatus, we went with the longer ladder. So that's the reason why our department in Gales Ferry has a 107-foot ladder and not the 65 that we used to. It's because we have to set it up farther from the building. So we needed something that reached a little longer. But I think our whole cost was going to be somewhere in the 1 million to 1.2 million for a custom apparatus. And when we found our 25, it was a demonstration unit. We flew down to Louisiana to look at it, and it met all of our needs with a couple modifications that we made. And we wound up walking out under 800,000. So there was at least a $400,000 swing by going with a rig that had, maybe 1,000 hours on it and 19,000 miles, and had been driven around and shown as a demonstration piece to other departments throughout the United States. So that was a home run for us to be able to find that. And it's my hope maybe we can find Ledyard's tanker that might be a demo, maybe an elliptical simple demo like the one in Gales Ferry is. And also, I should throw it out there. I know the chiefs are both agreeable. If you guys ever want to maybe have some sort of a gathering and come down to the firehouses and see the apparatus and, kind of equate what we're talking about with real life things and answer those questions and understand the apparatus better and maybe its functions and how we use it better. We're certainly agreeable to that. And we'd love to host you guys some evening, whatever's convenient for you. We'll certainly make time for that and kind of run you through those.
Very good. Okay. Tim, Andra, questions?
No questions. I appreciate the homework and the foresight, and I think that it, like what happened with the ability to buy the demo, I think Ledyard has in some key ways historically operated that way, done their homework, made their plan, and then it gives us a little bit of time and leeway to sit back and see what opportunities open up, and then we can jump on it. So I very much appreciate the homework and the foresight, so we don't get into crisis situations and then really not know what we need and then just pick up whatever seems to be available and it doesn't meet the need.
I kind of liken it to if you go to the grocery store when you're hungry. I have this conversation with my wife all the time, and she comes home with Oreos and all kinds of other stuff that we don't need.
Right.
And she'll probably see this recording and laugh because it's a true story. But if you go to the grocery store with a list and you stick to your list, you get what you need. You don't get a whole bunch of extra stuff. Maybe there's a little room left in your budget to buy that package of Oreos, but you're not coming home with a whole cart full of junk food. And when we're rushing to do things because we have apparatus out of service, we don't always get exactly what we need because it's functional, it fills a gap, but it might not be specifically 100% what our needs might entail or it might require.
Right.
Some people think Oreos are needs, though.
All right, Roxanne, I'll bring you some Oreos.
She had a question?
I just wanted to make a comment. Steve might already know this because Tony was at the same meeting I was. We met with our insurance representative for the emergency services insurance. And just for Tim's benefit, we actually have two different insurance companies that we deal with because emergency services is so unique. Well, actually just fire now is so unique that we have a separate, what's the name of the company, Steve? It's not VFIS, it's the other one.
ESIP, I think.
ESIP, yeah. And we've had them for a number of years. They're very good. And one thing that came out of this meeting that I don't think any of us knew is that they do have, a truck replacement for a limited amount of time. So if we have another situation where a piece of apparatus is out of working order, we can at least check and see what is available. Chances are there's not going to be much available, but if there is, we do have a way of renting a piece of equipment or a vehicle for a while, and then that would give us more time to think about what the next move is going to be. I thought that was good to know.
And that's one hazard that we have, and that's maybe one weakness to our plan, but it's also a strength. And I balance these back and forth. Oh, there's a lot of departments out there that they maintain a reserve apparatus. So for instance, like I couldn't be at that meeting because I was at work. I work, for those that don't know, in the city of Meriden as a career firefighter, and we have 2 or 3 spare engines that we maintain, so that one breaks down, we can put that staff in a spare, put it in service, not have any loss of service or any impact on the service. And then the mechanic can get going working on fixing the frontline apparatus. And when he's done, it gets switched back around and the company gets their apparatus back and the spare goes into reserve. So it's nice being able to have that. We don't necessarily have that. And there's not a lot of agencies around in our area that I can think of that have that. Like New London may have one, Norwich may have one. So for us to get a loaner, we'd had Mashantucket loan us an apparatus for a little while, but they needed it back because they had something break, and trying to find one to rent can be very difficult as well. So it's up to sometimes the vendors, maybe a short-term lease kind of a thing. If they've got something sitting ready to get sold, and maybe we might be able to, rent one of those on a temporary basis, but that insurance policy would eventually cover some portion of that. So that's a nicety to have. In the case of the engine that we're dealing with putting the new motor in, we had purchased that Green Goblin that we love to call it, from I think it was Haddam or Killingworth or some department over there. And that thing's been pretty good. And of course it's had some repairs that we've needed to make to it, but it's a 30-year-old apparatus that has a strong motor, limited seating, but it gets the job done. And, it is what it is on that. We had to make the purchase, and luckily we did buy that thing because we've had it in service for the better part of the last 2 years as a replacement for the one that's broken. So, I'm not saying I'm in support of us having a reserve apparatus. I think the maintenance costs versus the benefit are probably pretty problematic for us. And I don't think they make necessary, fiscally responsible decisions there to have another fire truck just to have in case something breaks. But, it's been an option. And we've gotten to the point where we've had, only 2 fire engines in town, and we had to send Gales Ferry's engine up to Ledyard for them to borrow for a few days until the repairs were made. So we still accommodate that. And it's not ideal, but it's what we do. We're pretty good at doing a lot with not much in the fire service, and making do with it, and adjusting and adapting and overcoming those things.
Good discussion. Jim, questions?
No, I just wanted to say thank you again for the level of detail that's in this report. The last time we talked about, or really the proposal, I should say. The last time we talked about it, I believe the only comment I had was in the number of vehicles in the fleet. And the fact that it decreases over time. And, I'm not the professional, you are. And so, we depend on you to tell us that that's going to be sufficient to meet the service needs of the town. And if that's the case, then I'm on board. So
I'm less concerned with the number of apparatus. I'm more concerned with the function of each apparatus.
Right.
And I say that because if you go to any, I'll call it any sort of city urban department, the aerial devices don't even have pumps on them. They don't flow water. They're strictly there for search, rescue, and ventilation. Gales Ferry's ladder does have a pump. It does have water and fire hoses on it. Its primary purpose is attack, so supplying hose lines for the firefighters, and also supporting, search and rescue. So we're already doing a lot of different functions with one apparatus, and that's kind of the concept that we've had to embrace. And that's ultimately what our plan is when we combine, say, Engine 21 and Rescue 27, is making these good decisions and maybe spending, a couple dollars more than we would for a bare bones engine to accommodate all those rescue equipment pieces, the Hearst tools, and the rope rescue and the water rescue and all the other things that we do and we're very good at. We can accommodate them on one apparatus. There just has to be some real good thought, real good planning, and everything needs to have its own place for storage in the compartments and using our space very wisely.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. We appreciate you taking time out of your vacation. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Have fun.
I appreciate it. I'm going to go log out and grab dinner. Thank you, guys.
Sounds good. Thank you, Steve.
Right, bye-bye. Yep.
Bye. Okay. On the second item, our discussion about the capital improvement plan and CNR and ARPA, I've started to keep a little list of all the requests that we're seeing for the funds from ARPA. And there's a 28-page document with questions and answers that I managed to wade through. I know Roxanne's read it too. And I'm starting to get a handle for what we can and can't do with nearly $4 million of money that we're getting. And as I think you know, we can't use it to reduce taxes. That's unfortunate. But here is a list of what we're being asked for or things we could do with those funds. COG would like to hire a planner, and they're asking the towns to contribute. COG is the Council of Governments, a very effective organization, very helpful to us. And in an attempt to regionalize, they're offering to hire a planner who would benefit all of the member towns. And that would cost $7,100 a year for 4 years. In addition, the Southeast Connecticut Culture and Arts Coalition has requested 1% of our funds to support art. And that's a small amount. It's a total of $21,000. And we're thinking we might also, in addition to, this is information I got from the mayor, by the way, we might also make a request that they support us with the up-down sawmill. No action needed on these, by the way. I'm just kind of sharing information. We also found, Roxanne discovered, and I think Fred discovered, that one of the other things we can use the money for is lead abatement. And we spent $30,000 on lead abatement at the Nathan Lester House, so we might be able to apply post-project for that. We are hoping to apply and use some of the money. Actually, we don't apply. When you spend money on approved uses, you don't have to apply. So one we might spend the money on is a sewer line from Ledyard Center back to connect into the Highlands Water Treatment Plant. But we're still waiting on the sewer study report from Weston and Sampson on that. In addition, the WPCA has discussed 2 possible water main extensions. They haven't made a request yet, but they're just talking about the idea of extending Route 117 further north to support a possible senior housing or affordable housing project and other businesses or probably residents in that area. And then there's a request from the residents at Oak Ridge Drive to extend the water main there to 3 houses. So that's the full list. I think it's important to be keeping a list at this point, and I think we'll hear more from the mayor on that. So, questions on and discussion.
So
I have a.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I'll
Tim.
defer. I can wait. It's okay.
You got it.
Oh, okay.
New privilege. Go.
Oh, I see. Okay. So, I mean, I've been in situations before where there's grant funds available. I'll call this, it's essentially a one-time fund, right? We have to spend it before 2024. And I'm not going to comment on any one of the individual proposals or ideas that you just went over. But as a rule of thumb, when a town gets funds like this, I think we should be prudent enough to consider what non-recurring expenses we can fund with these additional funds. In other words, I'll take the idea of an extra employee, for example. It might sound good, and I agree with you, the COG has been effective, but in that case, I would question what the future expenses are. What are the recurring expenses? After that grant money runs out, or after this money runs out, we're still going to have that expense. And so, I mean, it's something that we need to consider, and that goes along with any infrastructure improvements we do too. Water lines are great, water mains are great, but we get that installed, there's a maintenance cost with that. There's a future maintenance cost that we need to roll in and take into consideration for future budgets. And I just want to make sure that, that we have an eye towards that. I'm not saying that we shouldn't consider any of those ideas. I'm just saying we should consider the totality of those ideas. That's it.
Good points, Tim. That is something that we have traditionally done. We've been wary of grants that have a 1 year. We'll give you this money and then you're on your own. We're very wary of things that add to costs down the road, whether it's maintenance of new infrastructure or buildings or what have you, or just continuing employee or other expenses. you know, what I'd love to do, and the reason I've got this on the agenda is I was hoping we could get some kind of news that some of this money could be used to fund the replacement of the Lantern Hill Bridge. And reading through all 28 pages doesn't say much about bridges. It does mention new roads, and it does mention maintenance of infrastructure like that. So I highlighted it. I'm going to send it back to Marcia and the mayor and see if we can pursue that a little further. But we also can't just put the money in the bank. We're specifically prohibited from reducing our or increasing our rainy day fund. We can't do that. So you're right, Tim, we have to spend the money. So the real question is, how do we spend it prudently and at least future cost? So, Marcia.
Just want to make sure I'm not muted. Another item that has been talked about is the housing rehabilitation program that we have. We have applied every year that it was possible to apply, and we've helped a lot of people in town with updating their housing infrastructure. This year we were ready to apply, but the state changed who could apply. It wasn't for municipalities this year. It was for corporations who do that kind of thing as a, like when they used to have Christmas in April, and employees would volunteer their time to go and help people in the community. So, so it got changed this year, and it's been very successful here. We have people turning money back over to the fund when they sell their houses. And so that is a possibility for some of that money.
Marcia, quick question on that. Is that when you say the rehabilitation grant, were you referring to the UR Home program that used to exist, or was there something else?
I'm not familiar with that program. This is done through CDBG.
Yeah,
I always get that screwed up. Grants.
it's a block grant. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a block grant, and I don't know how old the program is in the state, so it could be an outgrowth of what you're talking about. I just don't know.
Yeah, the UR Home program was for distressed municipalities. I'm not sure what you may have qualified. That was a program that was available in New London, for example, and it was a program that was funded at the state level until it was exhausted. And a lot of people got to take advantage of that for things, for infrastructure improvements to their houses. But there were obviously strings attached to that as far as resale, how long you had to stay in the house, et cetera. But just to be clear, so the idea that you're talking about would be using some of this money to fund a grant program like that for residents of Ledyard, or to entice people to move here to buy houses?
Well, we already have the housing rehab program. We've gotten money from the state on 3 different occasions, 2 years apart.
Okay.
And then we use the money to help people fix things on their homes. And then the string attached to it is that, and it's interest free, but it is a loan. And then when they sell their house, the amount that was used to fix their house comes back to that fund, and then we can fund other houses. And we've been able to do that to a certain extent, but not everybody who has taken advantage of the program has sold their house. So I think we've got 20,000 left in the fund. So we'd really like to pump that up again, maybe to we can only use as much as people sign up to use it. So whatever that amount would be would have to be determined later.
I believe that would qualify, right, Marcia?
Mm-hmm.
I added it to the list.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Marcia, I assume there are parameters on what those funds can be used for, and a cap on those funds?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we would follow what we would be doing essentially is seeding that pot of money with more money until the next time that we can apply for a block grant with the state.
Yeah. Right. So that, I mean, that is designed to be a revolving fund. I thought, the one I'm thinking of, I thought there was even some sort of a, there was some sort of a function on it that sort of essentially kept it from hitting zero. But I don't, but never mind.
I think it was the payback.
Never mind.
I think it was there's a lien on the home. But if they don't sell their house, then...
Sure. Right, I get that part, but you know what? I'm fishing for a piece of information in my head that just like fell out of the back of the drawer. It doesn't matter. It's okay. But if we're done talking about that piece, I have a question about the regional planner piece.
Sure.
So I have the same sort of a thought that I had the first time this came up, maybe, I don't know, a year or two ago, because I think the COG has been talking about this for some time. I'm so curious to understand how, would a regional planner essentially serve only regional needs? In other words, the towns involved in some ways have competing needs, right? If we're all going after the same pot of grant money, does somebody get the upper hand somehow? You know what do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, absolutely. Marcia, do you know?
Yeah, the problem is, and this is more true of zoning officials and building officials than planners right now, but there's just, everybody needs one, and they just aren't available. So as you know, our building official retired in February or March, and we're using a building official through the COG for 2.5 days a week. Our zoning enforcement official just put in his 2 weeks notice.
Oh.
And when you go on Indeed or other job sites, it seems like a lot of towns are looking for the same thing. And it's hit up. This is something that has been forecasted in all municipal positions, that as the more seasoned long-term employees retire, it's getting very hard to fill those positions. So I think that yes, cost and being able to share costs on a regional basis is one big part of this push, but also it's recognizing that it's going to be hard to do one of these positions full-time for every town as we go forward, you know, as we have in the past. But I think that building officials and zoning officials are, to your point, Andra, less of a concern than a planner would be. And unless you have a person who can be completely unbiased and work just as hard for every town they're working for, yeah, I think that is a concern.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Other thoughts? All right, I'm going to move on. Does anybody have any other old business? They want to amend the agenda for new business? Okay. I would accept a motion for item number 1 under new business.
I'll take the first one. I make a motion to authorize the Board of Education to increase the appropriation from account 210-701-01-58261 BOE CNR AG-SCI by $9,985 for the installation of the air conditioning system in the Ag Science classrooms at Ledyard High School. In addition, grant a bid waiver in the amount of up to $36,485 to BT Lindsay and Company, Inc. of West Hartford for the installation of the air conditioning system in the AG-SCI classrooms at Ledyard High School due to not receiving the required bids in accordance with ordinance number 200-001 and ordinance for purchasing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tim. So as I saw this, I thought, well, this is unfortunate. However, there were two bidders who showed up at the walkthrough, only two. I believe, and Wayne has been patiently waiting for this. Welcome, Wayne. Thanks for coming.
No problem.
Wayne or someone reached out to specific contractors to alert them to this bid, which was on the Board of Ed website. And despite all the attempts to get bids, we have one, which is unfortunate. So I'll stop there and turn it over to Wayne if you have more to add.
Yeah, we did reach out to various contractors. We did get calls from numerous contractors looking for information. My gut feeling was that they just thought the project was too small. The contractor that did the work at Gallup Hill and the middle school was the other one that came through the walkthrough Action Air. And BT Lindsay were the two that did show up. BT Lindsay was the only one that supplied a bid. It was a little over. Base I can attribute it was the fact that, as you know, or you may not know, that the metal cost of metal and stuff is gone up dramatically over the course of this past late winter and early spring. So I think that that contributed to it. And then when I did talk to BT Lindsay, they said that part of it is the tie into the BMS system because they have to bring a subcontractor in to do that work.
Is BT Lindsay one of the companies that worked on Gallup Hill, or was that?
No.
No.
They've done other work for us,
Yeah.
some maintenance work and a couple other small installations.
Do we reach out to local contractors?
Yeah, what I did was I went through, pulled up a list on the internet, and either called or emailed whatever contacts they had on there and left messages. If they're interested, the bid is on our website. You can reach out to me for it. I'm reluctant to just email them out in case something doesn't go through or something and they don't get all the bid. So I'd rather have them come to the website and, take the information directly.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, questions? Oh, Marcia.
I would like to just make a clarification, a semantic clarification. In the motion, if you could change it from increase the appropriation to increase the allocation, that would be good because the full amount of the VOAG grant that was over and above has already been appropriated to that account. So there's a budget, appropriation budget of $138,123 in that account right now. So you don't want to increase that by 9,000. You just want to, within that amount, increase the allocation to the specific project.
Okay, thank you. Good point. Okay with that, Andra? Friendly amendment?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Marcia.
Questions? Tim, Andra?
No, you asked my question.
All in favor, please say aye.
Counselor Ingalls votes aye.
Councilor Ryan votes aye.
Councilor Solomon votes aye, and the motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thanks,
You
Wayne.
too.
Thank you.
Item 2.
Tim, would you like to take number 2?
Yep. So I move to approve the additional appropriations from the receipt of FEMA funding for Storm Isaias in the total amount of $25,748 as follows. $1,000 to Emergency Management New Equipment CNR account, 210-20701 TAC 57300. $12,374 to Public Works Heavy Equipment CNR account 210-40101 TAC 57311. $4,950 to Public Works Large Truck CNR account 210-40101 TAC 57312. $4,950 to Public Works Small Truck CNR account 210-40101 TAC 57313. And $2,474 to Public Works Light Equipment CNR account 210-40101 TAC 57314.
Councilor Ingalls seconds. Good work.
Yeah. Love hearing you Navy guys saying TAC. So cool. So it's always nice to get money. So this is reimbursement, or not reimbursement, but payment from FEMA for Isaias. Good chunk of cash. So
that was from all the debris work that Public Works had to do after the storm.
Yep.
And Tim, for your benefit, Public Works Director usually likes to split it up, and I tried to convince him to just do it to one account so you guys didn't have to read so much, but this is a good system because it helps fund the reserve accounts.
He's an engineer. We like his work.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. He does good work.
Yep. Any questions? You guys ready to vote?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Councilor Ingalls votes aye.
Councilor Ryan votes aye.
Councilor Solomon votes aye, and motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item.
I make a motion to approve additional appropriations from the sales of surplus vehicles and equipment in the total amount of $18,532 as follows. $340 to Historic Districts Building Maintenance CNR account 210-10103-54000. $5,127 to Lease Vehicle CNR account 210-20101-57510. $1,665 to Public Works Pooled Vehicle CNR account 210-40101-57315. And $11,400 to Public Works Large Truck CNR account 210-40101-57312.
Second.
What is this other
Second.
number here that linked?
Oh. That's the link to the agenda item. It brings up the
okay.
the summary.
It's usually okay, got it.
Yep.
Just for the record, I seconded that.
Yeah, thank you. So a couple of years ago, the mayor went to govdeals.gov or whatever it is. It's a public website where we can auction our surplus equipment. And in the past, we had sealed bids, which had to be presented to town hall or maybe the town garage, but it had a very small audience and people were getting good stuff really cheap. And it shows because we're getting large chunks of cash worth what the items are actually worth, which is really refreshing to see. In this particular one, the historic district also decided to get rid of some things that they no longer felt they needed. And they go through quite a process because things are donated to them and then they have to go back and say, they have to keep track when a donation is made of an item, whether the original donor wants it back or if they can sell it. So they did that, and they sold an antique grinding wheel and some other things. So that's why some of this money is going back to the historic district. So they're cleaning house.
But also point out that we have, every time we sell vehicles, there's cars specifically, there's a vendor in New York somewhere who buys them for taxis. And he used to bid when we were doing sealed bids, but he's still bidding now that we're on Gov Deals and we're actually getting more money because he has competition now.
Sure. So he's bidding higher. That's what we like.
I just take exception with this Fred Allen guy buying a winch. I don't know. No.
I think it's ideal to me. I should go to that. I saw that winch. I was thinking I should have gone there. Check that out. We're looking for a third car, so that police vehicle would have been cool for Adrian.
Keep the light at it.
Yeah.
Love it.
So, okay. Any other comments, questions, Tim?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I figured it out, but the way that the funds were divvied up, it looks like it just went back into the accounts to which the items that were sold came out of, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Okay, ready to vote? All in favor, please say aye.
Counselor Ingalls votes aye.
Councilor Ryan votes aye.
And Councilor Solomon votes aye. The motion passes, and we are suddenly at the end of our agenda.
Could I just interject?
Yeah,
something?
Marcia.
Since you didn't let me give my report, I just
Oh,
want
I'm sorry.
if pardon me.
There's still number 5 to do, which is a tax refund for $6,004.16 to Inglesi Mission Area.
I don't see that.
Number
Yeah,
5.
it's on there.
You see it, Tim?
Yeah, it's discussion and possible action on tax refunds.
Wow.
Right, but we don't see the specific tax refund.
Right.
Right.
There's no link or anything.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's supposed to be there. I'll read it to you. It's motion to recommend the town council approve one tax refund in the amount of $6,004.16 that exceeds the $2,400 in accordance with the tax collector department procedures.
Okay,
So, who wants to move that?
I'll move it.
I will move that.
Andrea moved it.
Okay.
Tim, you want a second?
I'll second, sure.
So was it a double payment, Roxanne?
No, Bill, this was for the church, the Iglesias.
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that we did the ordinance and the resolution for, and so they followed through and submitted for the refund for the taxes that weren't supposed to pay.
Okay, what was the dollar amount?
$6,004.16.
Got it. Okay,
So do
thank
we
you.
know if a tax bill now gets issued to the former owner of that property?
I think, Andrea, that Fred, the mayor, was going to contact the attorneys. He felt it was the attorney's job to do when they did the title search. And I think he's hoping to reclaim the money from the attorney.
Okay. It would be good to not lose sight of that.
Yeah, do you recall that, Marcia?
I know he was going to contact the attorneys. I don't know where that sits right now.
Yeah, okay.
The mayor had mentioned that most attorneys have, it's called errors and omissions insurance.
Right.
And sometimes we'll cover it.
Yep.
We'll wait till he's on an ice floe and text him.
All right, you guys ready to vote?
Yeah.
All in favor, please say aye.
Counselor Ingalls votes aye.
Councilor Ryan votes aye.
Councilor Solomon votes aye, and the motion passes. And now we're at the end of the agenda. Thank you very much. Oh, Marcia,
yeah, I think Marcia.
I just wanted to say that the budget to actual reports are on this agenda. They're not really that important because it doesn't include June, and June is the biggest month of the year. So as soon as I have the final revenue numbers all posted, I will send you the updated information. And also, just to give you a sense of timing, we do our last check run for 2021 for fiscal year 21 in mid-August. So when that's done, I'll be able to give you the unaudited numbers for how we did last year.
Excellent.
And also the end of year transfer request.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I've reached out to Roxanne about the next finance meeting. And I'm going to talk with her about options, but we may need to have our finance meeting, even if the town council meeting is, the first town council meeting in August is canceled, because I won't be around for the second finance meeting of the month. So we have an option of holding our finance meeting as regularly scheduled, or waiting until I get back and doing it the week of the second town council meeting. So what I'm planning to do is talk with Roxanne about it and then reach out to you guys for your preference on when our next finance meeting is. And we'll do that by email.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Right.
This meeting is adjourned.
All right. Everybody have a good night.
6:06. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.